The Chaos Gods are always playing out the great game, the struggle for supremacy in the realm of chaos. Each god has their moment of ascendancy, where they become the most powerful of the Chaos Gods, before being brought down by an alliance of the others who fear their growing power. This changing hand of power is often due to a god's sway on the mortal realms. For example, during the Age of Chaos, Khorne became immensely powerful due to his near conquest of Akshay, and the bloodshed in general that gripped the mortal realms. Yet for me, it has always been Slaanesh who has always appeared to be the most dangerous of the gods, due to his insidious and subtle nature. Hello friends, Smotown here, and again we are looking at some Age of Sigmar lore. Specifically today I would like to discuss the devastating return of Slaanesh, and why in my eyes he always has the potential to be the most dangerous. By this I don't mean the most powerful, as I've explained in my beginning dialogue. All Chaos Gods have the potential to be the most powerful. No, what I mean is that Slaanesh is the most dangerous, and that he is subtle, and that his domain is so widespread and not as narrow as the other Chaos Gods' domain. And I hope to discuss this fact over the video. Of course, this is just my opinion and is open for your discussion below. When we talk about the domain of a Chaos God, we are generally talking about the emotion or action that empowers the god. For Khorne and Nurgle, these are fairly straightforward, but universally strong and powerful ideas. Khorne is empowered by warfare, even if it is not waged by his adherents or his worshippers. And even if his minions are slaughtered in combat, this gives power to Khorne because it is just combat that empowers Khorne, not worship. And this gives rise to the maxim, Khorne cares not from where the blood flows. Meaning that if his own followers are killed, that is as good as his enemies being killed. While anger, war and murder are powerful and widespread ideas, they are narrow ideas, meaning that Khorne will wane in times of peace, generally. Nurgle, likewise, the god of plagues and life, is a powerful idea that will burn brightly in the right conditions, such as in the realm of life and the war of life. But it again is a narrow domain that needs certain conditions. To me it is Slaanesh and Tzeentch who are the two gods that can exist in plain sight in human societies. We see this in the City of Secrets, when there's a Tzeentchian cult that takes over, or attempts to take over the city that's been hiding in plain sight because of the subtle and hidden nature of Tzeentch's plans. However, the reason that I believe Slaanesh is even more dangerous is because his domain of power is so wide and subtle, and captures so many different emotions. The reason for this is explained pretty well in the Hedonites of Slaanesh battle tome, and I'll read it as follows. Where the other dark powers are crystallizations of specific elemental concepts, Slaanesh is lent form and power, not by the nature of feelings and desires, but by their degree. Everything taken to an excess empowers Slaanesh. So this is the crux of my point and why Slaanesh is so dangerous. It isn't a specific emotion or a specific narrow trait that empowers Slaanesh like the other gods, but it is all emotions, everything that is covered by the other Chaos Gods, as long as these are expressed to the excess. So, for example, an excess of murderous impulses not only would spill blood for the blood god, but if it's to an extent that's so in excess, it would actually empower Slaanesh. Other examples of this would be a fixation on a love interest, extreme vanity, extreme desire, etc. The same page of the battle tome also highlights this dichotomy of Slaanesh's power compared to his brother gods, and his potential for power. Apologies for this rather long quote I'm about to read, but I do find it rather telling in regards to Slaanesh's insidious and potential power. It reads as follows. Though Slaanesh is arguably the youngest of the Chaos Gods, he was once the most powerful of their number, and will be again. He has learned to thrive on being underestimated, using the predictable contempt of Khorne, the generous sentimentality of Nurgle, the treachery of the Horned Rat, and the self-defeating complexity of Tzeentch to his advantage. In their more paranoid moments, his brothers have watched Slaanesh's conquests with great trepidation. They secretly fear that their own obsessions empower their brother, for at their simplest and most profound level, the Dark Gods are the embodiments of all-consuming ideals, mindsets, and emotions. There is always a suspicion that the Dark Prince will rise like a sin-soaked phoenix from the fires of incarceration to one day eclipse them all in power, or worse, absorb them, making their excesses and obsessions part of his own and subsuming their territory into his sovereign realm. So this is the point that I was hinting at before, the excesses of the other gods themselves, which of course they are in excess of certain ideals, certain emotions, have the potential to empower their brother Slaanesh because of the nature of his power. It also references the fact he was once the most powerful of the Chaos Gods. This is true, He devoured the majority of the elves from the world that was at the end times, making him immensely powerful before he was captured by the elven gods. It also mentions something else that I've always suspected of Slaanesh, both in regards to 40k and AOS, that the other Chaos Gods often underestimate him. Khorne especially sees him as frail and weak and pathetic, as well as the fact that he is the youngest of the gods. Yet this is an advantage, not a weakness. Underestimating one as dangerous and insidious as Slaanesh is foolish. The domain of excess also means that Slaanesh has some access to some of the greatest warriors in all of the gods, rivaling those of the Blood God himself. For those who obsess with turning martial prowess into their life obsession, will serve Slaanesh as incredible murderers and killers. Skilled killers such as Sigvald the Magnificent and the Myrmidich Painbringers, talented killers who, unlike Khorne's brutal killers, are concerned with making an art out of killing and swordsmanship. Thus, they are skilled warriors. Excess of pain and torture also falls under the god's remit, meaning that mean sadistic killers serve in the prince's army. Fearsome opponents like the Lord of Pain. Facing this opponent would make you wish you'd had your head taken off by a blood warrior in comparison to the pain that this warrior can inflict. The god also has a number of massive influences on the land and the history of the mortal realms. Without his power and taint, the Skaithborn of Daughters of Cain would not exist, and Morathi's current form wouldn't exist either. Slaanesh has also been absent, and while his forces and his realm have suffered to a degree without his leadership because he's been so absent, he has indeed grown in power of late. This is because of the tenacious nature of Slaanesh's power. He has grown in power until the Broken Realm narrative has started, where his mind, power and forces have grown despite his captivity. This feat, only obtainable by Slaanesh, is explained in the Shadow and Pain set narrative book, and it reads as follows. But an excess of adversity is still excess. As the age of chaos dawned, the Hedonite hosts grew in power once more. In true Slaaneshi fashion, they accomplished this not by swearing might to oaths to rise above hardships, nor by uniting behind a single strong leader, but by clinging to what had always made them strong, their obsessions. Even defeat and adversity will still empower Slaanesh and his servants, and we can only imagine what he has in store for the mortal realms upon his return. There really is no defeating the Dark Prince. We don't know if any of the other Chaos Gods would have been able to escape the prison in Ulgish. Slaanesh isn't just a god of sex and drugs. He is a god of excess. All emotions, all mortals, are capable of empowering and serving Slaanesh without even knowing it. In the darkest corners and desires of men's minds, when they desire for power, for a lover, for an objective, they are giving power to the Dark Prince all across civilized society, all across the mortal realms. So that is my short take on the power of Slaanesh, and to be honest, I could go on for hours and ruminate on the potential power of the prince. But I just wanted to kind of give a quick taste on how I perceive the prince and how some of the literature about Slaanesh has developed in recent years to kind of be where I've always thought it is, that he's the most dangerous in that he's insidious and subtle unlike the other gods. Again, not saying he's the most powerful, they all have their moments in the sun, but I always find him to be the most scary and dark of all the dark gods. If you like this video, please give me a like and subscribe. If you disagree and you yourself serve one of the other gods, please argue with me below. I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts. But until next time guys, I hope you have a nice night. Take care.